everyone, it's Jess and welcome back to my channel. So today is Labor Day, so I'm going to be filming a whole bunch of videos, so you'll probably see me in the same shirt for like a couple of videos these next couple of days. So I'm super excited because I'm finally kind of figuring this filming thing out. If I plan in advance and I film a whole bunch in advance, then I will have videos to post for you guys. So I'm super excited. But anyways, today I'm going to be doing my August wrap up, and I know it's a little bit late coming because, like I said, it's Labor Day, but I did read in August lots of books. So I'm super excited to show you all the books that I read this month. So I read a total of 10.25 books in the month of August, and I didn't get to 2 of the books that I wanted to get to. Basically, if you saw my TBR video, I'm doing the year-a-thon, and the year-a-thon theme this month was the nonfiction books, which I'm not so good at the reading of the nonfiction. So those tend to be really slow reads for me. I just don't get through them quite as fast as usual, and so I didn't get to 2 of them, and those were At Home with Madame Chic by Jennifer L. Scott. I'm super excited to read this, but I put it lower on my TBR because I wanted to get to some of the other, specifically like biographies first and such, so I didn't get to this one. Second, I didn't get to Life in Motion by Misty Copeland. This one, it got lowered on my TBR. I only got to 1.5 of the nonfiction. I know, like I said, nonfiction is slow for me, so I'm going to read these eventually, but just didn't get to them. So the book that I am still currently reading and enjoying, but currently reading nonetheless, is Steps in Time by Fred Astaire. This is his autobiography, and so far I'm enjoying it, but it is kind of slow just because it goes all the way from childhood on up to his, I think he's in his 50s when he's writing this, so it goes really slow. There's a lot of detail. So now I'm going to do something a little bit different. Last couple of wrap-ups I've done have been in the order that I read books. This time I'm going to go ahead and do them in order of rating just to see how I like it. Usually, just so you guys know, my ratings, if I like a book but it's not like amazing, then I rate it about 3 stars. Like I really liked it, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed the development, there was nothing really wrong with it, it just didn't resonate with me as well. And then 4 stars for me is that's a really good book. There were a couple of things I might not have enjoyed about it, or maybe it was a slow beginning or something like that, but I really enjoyed the book overall. And then 5 stars for me is like, I will read this again, it has changed my life, or it has made me think on things that I didn't think about before, that kind of thing. So 5 stars is a really high rating for me. 2 is probably like, I didn't really like it, but somebody else might, and 1 is like, really didn't like it. So coming in at 3 stars was Sense and Sensibility by Sarah Price. Now this one was a totally different read for me. I got this one out from the library because it was in like the new section, and it is actually an Amish romance. So for those of you who don't know, there is a whole section of Christian fiction that is Amish, and it's inspired by the Amish lifestyle and those types of things. It was inspired by Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility, and I love Jane Austen, and it just kind of intrigued me. I was like, I wonder what that would look like. So I know really nothing about Amish culture aside from the general things, so I found myself wondering a lot if this was an accurate portrayal or if this was slightly romanticized, you know, that kind of thing. But it was really cute. I felt like the religious code that they lived by was a good kind of carry over from Jane Austen's time, where they had that code of conduct. They couldn't do certain things and it was looked down upon, or like if a girl was with a guy alone, that was bad. So I felt like that carried over really well in this genre. The characters were pretty well developed, I felt like, but I don't know that you would get it if you hadn't read Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. I feel like it was a very nice tribute to that, but I don't know if it would have stood on its own. But yeah, so 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It was cute. Next book that came in at 3 stars was Fairy Girls by, who is this by? Hiro Mashima. This is based on Fairy Tail. It's kind of a little spin-off of Fairy Tail, and Fairy Tail is a very, very popular manga and anime series that I really enjoy. I love it so much. Oh my gosh, Fairy Tail is so good. Anyways, so I thought I would really enjoy this. I purchased it quite a while back when my local bookstore was having a manga sale, and it was cute. It was cute. It definitely wasn't as good as Fairy Tail. Like, this one is all the girl characters from Fairy Tail kind of have their own little storyline that happens, and it was good, but it just wasn't amazing. So coming in at 4 stars is Cantarella by Yu Higuri, and this one is another manga. This one is fairly old, I think, but I'm really kind of enjoying it. It's a little bit darker than my usual manga fix that I get. This one is a historical fantasy following the family of the Borgias during the Renaissance, and the main character, Cesare Borgia, is the son of a priest, and the priest has made some sort of deal with the devil. We don't really know what that was. We don't know what's going on really yet, but basically his younger sister and him get separated, and he starts seeing these dark demon creatures, and yeah, it's really kind of cool. So it's kind of confusing, but cool so far. So another 4-star book this month was The Rose Daughter by Robin McKinley. I finally finished it, and I really enjoyed it. This one, I kind of always forget. Robin McKinley starts a little slow. All of her books are kind of this slow burn at the beginning, and you kind of get into the world, and then the world is just around you. It's kind of like a dream where you're in the dream, and some stuff doesn't make sense, but you have to just accept it because you're in a dream. And she kind of explains stuff like that. It's just like you just accept it because it's in her world. And it's kind of cool. I actually really enjoy that about the book. But this was a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So as you may know from watching my TBR video, this is her second retelling. Her first one is Beauty. In fact, I have the copy. Hold on. So her first one is Beauty, and I loved this retelling so much. I read this back in high school, and it totally... Beauty and the Beast has always been my favorite Disney movie of all time, my favorite fairy tale, and this totally just blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the best retelling I've ever heard of Beauty and the Beast, and so I was in love with it. So when I heard that there was another one, I was like, I'm totally picking that up. The author said she liked this one better, but I would have to go with this one. So I may at some point do a reread of Beauty and then kind of compare and contrast them in a video, because I just thought they both had some good elements, but this one to me just stood out and I really enjoyed it. Next, with 4 stars, was These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is a sci-fi, and I really enjoyed it. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I could not put this book down. I was just reading. In fact, I had been reading... What was I reading right before this? I've been reading nonfiction. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is what fast reading feels like again. Because I've been reading nonfiction and I was like, oh, this is so slow. And then I'm reading this and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see what happens. This book follows Lilac and Tarver. Lilac is the daughter of a very rich kind of, we don't really know too much about him yet, but he's like the rich developer of planets, and so basically he builds all these ships and stuff, and she is on a ship called the Icarus. And if any of you know about the story of Icarus and his father, you probably know where that's going. Icarus crashes, and her and Tarver, who's a general, are the only survivors on this lone, desolate planet of no human beings at all. So basically, it's their survival story. There were some really cool twists in here. It is a dual point of view story, and I really enjoyed that because I felt like I really got to know both of the characters, whereas if it had just been from one point of view in this type of situation, I feel like I would have not gotten as much out of the book. So Tarver and Lilac are both really lovable characters. Lilac is kind of your general, like, rich girl that has never experienced anything, but she's not a snob about it. She just doesn't know about stuff. And then Tarver is your general kind of poor boy who assumes she's a snob, and he's kind of worked his way up through the military. He's had a lot of stuff going on in his life. So their match is really good. Obviously there's romance involved, and I really enjoyed this one a lot. I would say if you're looking for something that reads a little bit like a dystopian novel, because it feels like that. It kind of felt like the Hunger Games at some points, because there was some mystery, you had to survive on this island, this planet by yourself. Definitely some Hunger Games feelings I had about this that made it, but it didn't seem like it was a dystopian. It was just set in the future, in the really far future of like a sci-fi world, but it read like a dystopian. It was kind of cool. It was cool. The next book I rated 4 stars was Celebrating Pride and Prejudice by Susanna Fullerton. This was one of the actual nonfiction ones I finished, and I really enjoyed. It was a book about a book. So basically Susanna Fullerton, for the 200-year anniversary of Pride and Prejudice, did a whole book about Pride and Prejudice, about its popularity when it was written, about Jane Austen, not necessarily going into details about her, but about her feelings towards her own book, about why it's so popular, about the movie versions. She even had some information like about different movie adaptations that I didn't even know existed, or like television adaptations you can't get. It was really cool, and I really enjoyed it. The artwork was stunning in this. Some old translation covers. This is so gorgeous. Oh. So it was such a good book. I really recommend it. If you were a lover of Pride and Prejudice, you will enjoy it. It's so much fun to read. It was so informative, and it was just a great way to fangirl with the person who wrote it. So it was just fun. So also with 4 stars, we have Spindle's End by Robin McKinley, another book by her this month. It was so good. This was a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and I don't think I've read that many Sleeping Beauty retellings. She's not my favorite fairy tale, but I really enjoyed this one. This one was so different from just the normal story that you see of Sleeping Beauty. So the princess as a baby is cursed by the evil fairy, and that's normal, we all know that. But instead of her being taken away to be protected, she actually ends up getting kidnapped by another fairy. And so it is kind of the same, like she's being protected by these fairies that she's staying with, and she doesn't know, she's raised by them, but it's also kind of like the whole kingdom still thinks she's with her parents. So that's kind of cool. And then on top of that, she is granted the ability to talk to animals, and that actually really comes in handy for her. So I really enjoyed her character development. She was not your typical Sleeping Beauty princess. She was blessed with all of these gifts, like her curly blonde hair and her really long eyelashes, but she just thinks they're ridiculous. So when she is a child, she's like a total tomboy, and she's always running off into the woods and talking to her animal friends, and she doesn't want to do anything that's remotely princess-like, which actually works in her favor because it helps kind of keep her safe. But then when it comes down to her finding out she's a princess, that does not go over so well with her, because she does not want to be a princess. I loved the take that she had on the story, and it had a totally different ending than I was expecting. I was really pleased with it. I loved it. Now on to my 5-star reads this month. I'm so excited to tell you about these. So I was able to pick up from my local library books 2 and 3 of Dengeki Daisy. This is another manga, and oh my gosh, you probably saw in one of my previous wrap-ups how much I am enjoying this series, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. I am fangirling so much over this series. This series, if you haven't already heard on my channel at some point, follows Teru Kuribayashi, and she is an orphan. Her brother cared for her when their parents died, but now he has also passed away. And before he passed away, he gave her a cell phone and said, if you ever need anything, call or contact Daisy, and then Daisy will come to your rescue, come take care of you. And so she has had this cell phone and contacted Daisy. They've had lots of conversations, but she's never met Daisy. She has decided to let Daisy remain anonymous, and she doesn't really talk to Daisy about any real things that are happening aside from her missing her brother. She gets bullied a lot, and she doesn't really talk to Daisy about it because she doesn't want to take advantage of Daisy's kindness. So when some things happen at school and she's bullied, she ends up breaking a window on accident, and this gentleman is the school custodian, and he happens to see that happen, and so he decides to kind of make her his gardening custodian slave until she can pay off the damages that she caused. So she goes through that, kind of starts falling for him, and it's really great. And also there's a lot of mystery in this. Her brother may or may not have had a software that people want, and so we want to know that, and people are kind of coming after her, and Daisy is kind of trying to protect her. And then, does she know who Daisy is? Do we know who Daisy is? We probably do. It actually does reveal who Daisy is, like right at the beginning of the book, but she doesn't know, and it's so great. I just love it so much. Oh, so good. So good. If you enjoy manga and you haven't read Dengeki Daisy yet, I highly recommend them. So good. Another 5-star read for the month of August was Pride and Prejudice. Yes, I read it again. So I'm part of the Austentatious Book Club, started by ReadbyZoe, and I'll link her channel down below, as well as the video where she describes what we're going to be doing for the Austentatious Book Club. But for August, we were rereading in my case, some other people were reading it for the first time, Pride and Prejudice. And oh my gosh, guys, I adore this book so much. And I actually didn't read it. I listened to it on an audiobook, and it was the audio version for the Audible, And so Rosamund Pike read it, and she, if you don't know, was the actress who played Jane's character in the Keira Knightley 2005 Pride and Prejudice movie adaptation, and she did such an amazing job with the narration. I will probably do a full review of Pride and Prejudice, especially the audio version. I felt like she captured the characters so well, all of her different voices that she did, and I would be listening to it while I was like cleaning the house and stuff. This was actually my first ever audiobook to listen to, and I could not have picked a better one. I was like giggling hysterically, and I had to have headphones in, and I'd be like cleaning my house, and I like was giggling hysterically because I couldn't stop. And then at one point, because I work in a music academy, so I teach private lessons, and sometimes when my students don't show up, I get a break. So I actually have the Pride and Prejudice Keira Knightley version of the soundtrack for piano, so I would be like listening to it and playing it at the same time, and it was so much fun. I just wanted to like immediately replay it as soon as I finished listening to it, but then I had to read other books. But yeah, it was so good. Guys, I love Pride and Prejudice. Anyways, so Pride and Prejudice, 5 stars. Again, as always, 5 stars. 1,000,000 stars. All the stars to Pride and Prejudice. And last but certainly not least, we have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany, and Jack Thorne. This is the 8th installment in the Harry Potter series, and it is written in play format because it is actually just being performed. It was not written as a novel. You all already know this, so I'm just basically telling you stuff you already know. But basically, this follows Harry Potter's son, Albus Severus Potter, in his journey through school. So it starts 19 years post the 7th book, but it does continue on past that because it follows basically quite a few years of Albus Severus's schooling. So I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I'm a little conflicted about this one because I will definitely read it again. It had a lot of themes and a lot of things that I enjoyed and a lot of things that confused me. I plan on rereading this a couple of times just to solidify my feelings about it. I'm not going to spoil anything by going into the plot because there were just some things, and I plan on doing probably a book discussion-y video about it, maybe like half non-spoiler, half spoiler, or something like that, because there are some things I would like to just talk about, because Harry Potter, and yeah. A couple of non-spoiler things is I really enjoyed seeing the adults in this book. I personally am not a huge fan of Albus Severus, though. During the Harry Potter series, don't get me wrong, but Harry Potter was probably my least favorite protagonist. Only because I always felt like he was being whiny. And that's probably unfair because he obviously went through a lot of crap. But I just felt like he was whiny. I'm like, dude, people are trying to help you. You have friends who want to be there for you. Let them be there for you. So yeah, so that would always annoy me. And that kind of, we're following our main character, Albus Severus, has those same types of angsty teen qualities that I was like, calm down, dude. So that kind of bothered me. Only because that's the person we were following. But his friend, Scorpius Malfoy, I love Scorpius Malfoy. He is adorably nerdy and sweet, and I just loved him. Oh, I love Scorpius. But besides the children that we're following, I really loved seeing the adults. I loved seeing Ron and Hermione's marriage because they are my OTP. Oh, yes. Ron and Hermione. So their marriage, I loved seeing. I really enjoyed seeing Ginny and Harry's marriage and Ginny's reactions and Harry's reactions to what was going on with Albus Severus. And yeah, I just love it. I really did. There were some plot things that I wasn't a fan of, or even if I was a fan of, I just felt like it was a fan fiction because it's been so long. Guys, it's been so long since we've gotten any story. And so it's just hard to feel this canonically. It's hard to accept it as canon and say, yes, this is what happened. It kind of feels like one of the Harry Potter characters decided to write a fan fiction. Yeah, a little bit. As far as the plot goes. But character development-wise, I felt like it was really beautiful, and I loved it. So yeah, 5 stars. So that is it for the books that I read in the month of August. If you read any of these books, you leave that in the comments down below, or what was your favorite read this month? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!